Thank you very much, Paulette. VC, Deputy VCs, the Admiral desk, professors, staff, and students of the University of Guyana, private sector, public sector visitors, all guests and friends here with us this evening. Welcome. And I will tell Amir whenever I find it that I can multiply by 0.5 by half, and yes, I would be a youth when I do that. So I remember indeed half of a youth if I was to multiply my age by half. I want to speak around 3 points. That's what I was told. And the 3 points are based on really some of the issues facing us around climate change and some of the reasons why we ended up where we are. And of course, not just looking at where we are, but how we can figure out to an extent how we can get to deal with, not necessarily get out of, because maybe it might be too difficult to get completely out of the vicious cycle in which we are, but how we can manage, as our colleague from Reuben said, the circumstances in which we are. The first point is that climate change is the biggest threat to our sustainable development. And I think that came out in a number of the different discussions earlier. When we speak about sustainable development, we refer to the attainment of a number of things simultaneously. Not easy things to attain, which is why even at the global level, the United Nations have framed the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. Nonetheless, if we were to look at the generality of what sustainable development represents, it's really one in which we seek to develop our societies economically, even as we seek to advance our people in their social agenda, and at the same time doing this in such a way that it is generating a society in which the impacts of that economic development and social advancement are environmentally benign. The predicted effects, and I shouldn't even say predicted anymore, the effects of climate change, which, as you have been told, are already happening. Some things are happening at slower rates than others. In fact, the majority of it is really very slow, and that's why sometimes we tend to not notice. But those effects are already costing countries. When you think about things like sea line intrusions, which is affecting farming in some of the countries in the Caribbean, especially in the Eastern Caribbean, that already has very shallow freshwater lakes. When you think about issues such as sea level rise, that is already affecting some of the coastlines in some countries in the Caribbean. I don't know how many of you may know Jamaica well, but there is a beach in Jamaica named El Shah Beach. And I recall in the days you could walk from one end of the beach to the other end without impedance. Nowadays, to walk from one end to the other one, you have to cross through mangroves and very difficult to navigate terrain, all because much of the beach is no longer there. Then you have the frequent floods and the frequent droughts that happen and impact the way in which we conduct much of our activities, including agriculture. Those things cost money on the one hand and distract our societies from their typical economic needs and distract our communities from much of their social arrangements. Disrupt much of the social arrangements within our communities, and therefore are already impacting, and impeding our sustainable development. And that is on the mild scale. These things are already costing significant portions of the GDP in our countries. If we were to be a little bit more alarmist and go to the second point I want to make, which is that the countries of the Caribbean are already living on the front line, as Eddie Granton put it, of climate change. And I'm proud to say that term in Guyana because this is a Caribbean country. Very few would disagree. And I say very few. I know at least one would disagree. But I shan't call any names. The fact is that the fourth assessment report of the Intergovernmental Panel of Climate Change, which Dr. Bynoe spoke about, 800 odd scientists, identified the Caribbean as being the most vulnerable region where the impacts of climate change are concerned. We stand to lose more than anybody else, for a number of reasons. The major sectors in the Caribbean: agriculture and fisheries, tourism, both of which are very climate sensitive. Climate change comes, economic base gone. Fortunately, it's not as bad for Guyana, but I'm speaking in the Caribbean sense this time, and I will zero in on Guyana a little bit more later, without stealing my 10 minutes, hopefully. The fact is too that a significant amount of the infrastructure within the Caribbean, in this case Guyana included, sits in the coastal zone. Because within the Caribbean, you live in islands mostly, and in the case of Guyana, a significant amount of its neighbors are islands, which means the connectivity is through the ports. And if the connectivity is through the ports, then it means the hub of your economics is typically going to be around those ports. And where the economic hub goes, so does the people. And therefore, societies are built around those areas. And so the majority of your infrastructure in the Caribbean is around the coastal zones. And the coastal zones are those that are most exposed. We saw in recent times that not just the coastal zones are a problem, because we have seen where sea level rises has been impacting, storm surges has been impacting some of those coastal infrastructure. But we have seen now the issue of hurricanes first time. That means those who, I don't know how many of you here may have experienced hurricane before, but for those of us who have, including myself, and I can raise my hand, at least 3 times significant ones, and I see the Vice Chancellor and the Deputy raising their hands in the front. Those who have experienced hurricanes, before you experience it, it sounds nice. It's one of those things, yes man, I want to wait, I can't wait to see this thing. And afterwards, you wish you had never experienced it. In fact, many will argue that the worst time of an hurricane, the worst period of hurricane is after the hurricane has passed. Dominica has a case in point, and I will speak a little bit more about some of the other issues, but Dominica has a case in point. I was speaking to the chairman of the Regulatory Commission on Monday, as well as the managing director of the utility. And between the two of them, the consensus was that Dominica will not be able to return to full restoration of electric power until May 2018. Currently, 15% of Dominica has access to electricity, coming down from 91% prior to the hurricane. So the chairman of the Utility Commission doesn't have power at all, as an example. The point is, what that hurricane, what we could call flurry of August, September showed us is that even if these things are not climate change related, because people like to argue about, oh, you can't choose 1 or 2 events, you have to look at all records and all that. But it goes to show you what the potential vulnerabilities of countries like ours are to the predicted impacts of climate change. Because if it is that scientists are saying we're going to have greater frequency and more intense hurricanes, and those two things could have done what they did, when they did it, then we are really steering down a very difficult path. In that 24 hours, or less than 24 hours that Maria was in Dominica, $1 billion of GDP disappeared. The annual GDP of Dominica is somewhere around $750 million. So in less than 24 hours of a hurricane, the country lost 125% of GDP. My colleague from Grenada will tell you that even though Grenada is still recovering from Hurricane Ivan, which was in 2004, 200% of GDP went down the drain. One hurricane, and it's not just hurricanes alone. In 3 hours in St. Vincent, in Christmas 2014, 3 hours of torrential rainfall, loss of life, and 30% of GDP in 3 hours of rainfall. And you know, one of the reasons why sometimes the folks in the larger developed world doesn't understand some of these issues is that, you know, they will say, oh, but we have hurricanes too. We had Storm Sandy, and we had, what was the other one? You know, you need them. Point is, Superstorm Sandy cost the US 0.3% of GDP. Their economy is big, it can absorb it. When you have small countries with small economies, one hit is like a trailer versus a motorbike. There's no comparison in the way in which you can absorb the momentum that is transferred from an accident. So I want to make that point that within the context of the Caribbean countries, we have to figure out how to deal with these potential impacts, because we are living on the front line of climate change. And the third point I want to make is really the reason why I was perhaps invited here today, because I'm an energy expert. And as an energy expert, everybody expects me to speak about energy, and I will. Because the reason why we are in the bind we are today is because, as Admiral will obviously put it, the way in which we developed our economies, I'm going to say, the global economy, I'm not talking about us small island states. Industrialized countries, really, that's what I should say. The way in which the economies were developed was based on an energy system that caused significant production of greenhouse gases that led to climate change. So the side of climate change that we are now seeing, are expecting, our experiences, is due to the mechanisms through which we built our energy sector. So energy is a problem. And even though, within the context of our own countries, and even those countries that are industrialized, many of them, despite all the talk, have not peaked their emissions. They are still using coal generation plants, even as they speak about supporting sustainable development and sustainable energy in countries, and helping us to transform to cleaner options and cleaner fuels. Many are still using coal plants. The point is that our energy systems, even in the Caribbean context, are such that they are not consistent with what we are speaking about in terms of mitigating and even adapting to climate change. And it's something that we therefore need to pay specific and particular attention to, and that has been the focus to a large extent of some of what my office is dealing with. Case in point, we are talking about countries such as Guyana, where we know that with the potential impacts of climate change, we are going to see more frequent hurricanes. Yes, Guyana is not threatened by hurricanes, but where is threatened by hurricanes? Gulf of Mexico, US Gulf Coast. Where do fuels come from? Gulf of Mexico, US Gulf Coast, 90% of the shipping lines for the transport of fuels that we are importing in the Caribbean are coming from areas that are threatened incessantly by hurricanes. And we continue to depend on these fuels excessively because in the Caribbean context, 91% of our energy services are provided by imported oil. 91%. One of the things that hurricanes do too is that when the disruption chains for oil happen, when the logistics chain for oil is disrupted, in many instances the prices will go up. We know that the price of oil varies like the weather, moves wherever the speculators choose to push it or wherever the demand or supply side chooses. It is not a typical market commodity that follows the traditional economic rules because of the limited ways in which oil is available because of the number of countries that produce oil who tend to control the oil production arrangements. And in fact, too, in the context of demand, there are some countries that are more important than others. All countries are not created equal. In the case of the Caribbean, we account for less than 0.2% of global oil consumption. So we pretty much go wherever the markets go. We cannot dictate the markets. So one of the fact is that we have an energy system that is built around a commodity that can be impacted, whose logistics chain can be impacted by one of the most likely impacts of climate change, which is hurricanes and storms. Also, we have designed our energy systems in a way in which the cost, the operating cost, is extremely high. Think about what you have running in a country like Guyana. You have the base load power generators. Those are the ones which always run 24 hours a day, providing the minimum amount of power that you require. Then you have your peaking generators, which are the ones you're supposed to turn on when people come in at 5 o'clock in the evening and start to run their TVs and their extra equipment at home, and you know, need more power than you normally would during the middle of the day. But there are also those you have to keep running 24/7 too, whether you need them or not, which is what I call the standby, the spinning reserves. The spinning reserves. That's why we call them spinning, because they are there like a watch, just in case you need it, until you need it. And if it's not there when you need it, what will happen is you have blackouts. Which probably explains why sometimes we have more blackouts than we do appreciate in Guyana, because we don't have enough spinning reserves. And then there are the traditional standby reserves, which are the bigger, older generators that we turn on, which takes time to ramp up, and then we bring those on whenever we have a major situation, which we can predict and, of course, plan. It's therefore not cheap to run the kind of energy systems that we have based on the construct that we have, and more so to run them based on a fuel that is mostly expensive. Because oil is not cheap. Even at $36 a barrel, which it was a year ago, it is not cheap. And now it is more like 65. It's not cheap. Because in 2004, $36 was a historic high price for oil. It is cheap now, and I put cheap in quotations because our pockets became elastic during that period of high prices, that 5-year band of high prices between 2008 and 2013. So, the consequence of that is that our society is depleted of significant amount of resources, especially US dollars, that is required to support many of the social services, many of the economic development issues, as well as to pay for some of the adaptation requirements. We are deprived of much of those resources because we are spending it to pay the Saudis and to pay the Americans and whoever it is that we import oil from in many instances. The fact is too that while we are doing that, there are many options that are capable of providing us cost-effective and affordable energy here in the Caribbean, including in Guyana, bioenergy is practical and potentially applicable and potentially capable in Guyana of providing power at around the range of 12 to 13 cents per kilowatt hour, much more than we are doing from fuel oil. Of course, there is some amount of room for PV, solar PV. There's room too for some amount of hydro, small hydro as the government is now promoting. And a system that is properly planned and a system that is suitably designed can in fact not just mitigate greenhouse gas emissions, but really derive a greater benefit that of adaptation. Adaptation because of the one and it is giving you much of the resources that you really need to adapt. Because as Admiral Best has pointed out, no longer can we depend on the international community to pay for adaptation. We must find ways and means of being able to raise resources from within our internal structures that can support some of our adaptation requirements. And the place to find much of that resources is in the energy sector, because the energy sector is where most of our economies bleed. Energy costs are up to 29% of GDP. Energy imports cost up to 29% of GDP in some countries. In the case of Guyana, last year energy imports accounted for around 24% of GDP. And if these numbers, if the system is properly designed, those numbers can in fact go down to the extent where much of that money that is being spent on energy imports could be channeled elsewhere to design the kind of agricultural system that are more adaptable to climate change, to improve some of the infrastructure, the coastal infrastructure, to make them more resilient to climate change, to the flooding that is likely to come, and so on. And in the countries in the Caribbean where obviously hurricanes are an issue, we can use, in fact, the redesigned systems to mitigate against some of those power outages which we potentially could have after an hurricane happened. But at the end of the day, the issue is really one where we have to figure out how to prioritize. And I speak about prioritize because in many countries we speak a lot about energy and the role of energy, but we have not prioritized energy. There are not many countries in the region where energy even appears as a significant portfolio in many ministries. In fact, I can tell you how many countries in the Caribbean actually have energy in the portfolio responsibilities of ministers. It is implicit in many, but explicitly, only 3 countries in the Caribbean have energy as a portfolio of the ministers of government. But yet it's a priority. In fact, in some countries, the staff of the energy desks in some ministries have been paid by money from development partners, not court budget. And in some instances, in many instances in fact, in many instances, the ministers which are responsible for energy has 6 or 7 other portfolios, some of them so large, that you wonder where will this minister find the time to really prioritize us or to do what is necessary to get an energy architecture that can transform the economy and lead to the results that we desire. The second point is planning, and it came out in my colleagues from Grenada's statement. It's integrated resource and resilience planning is required. We need to look at planning our energy systems in a different way and in a more inclusive way. And I won't go into that now, but we can always talk about that in the discussion session if necessary. And the third piece is partnership, greater partnership. Because we can't pay for these things simply by collecting rates from payers. It requires an infusion of public money, global public money. And Admiral Best spoke about it earlier. Global public money is needed to attract and leverage private money that is necessary to improve the energy situation in some of these countries. It's expensive, including Guyana. The fact is that renewables cost more. And even energy efficiency applications, which has to be a part of the mix, cost more. And it takes cash to cure. So at the end of the day, the 3 P's I leave you with: prioritization, planning, and partnership. One love, we'll speak some more.